One of our fears when driving a vehicle is when the brakes suddenly fail. Actually, what causes these brakes to suddenly fail? In this video, I will try to dissect what happens to the brake system when it fails. This usually happens to hydraulic brakes. So, hydraulic brakes use fluid or brake fluid to distribute pressure. Simply put, the pressure from the brake lever will be transferred to the caliper to clamp the brake disc. And what can transfer this pressure is a fluid-shaped material. Because the fluid is liquid, or its shape can adjust to its place and is solid when pressed. This is different from air, although air is also liquid because it can adjust to its place, but air is more elastic. In other words, when given pressure, the volume of air will shrink. Of course, this cannot be used as a material to transfer pressure. So, what happens when air enters the hydraulic brake system? This is a condition where air accidentally enters the hydraulic brake system. Then why does it happen? This is an animation of the hydraulic brake system to the motorbike. In the brake handle section, there is a reservoir tube. This tube functions to store brake fluid reserves. So if we want to fill the motorcycle brake fluid, it goes through this tube. And this tube also has a level. So like this, we can see whether the brake fluid is still there or has run out without having to open the tube. At the bottom, this tube is connected to the input cylinder. This is the mechanism for pressurizing the brake fluid. So in this position, the brake fluid from the reservoir can enter the system because it is completely open. But when we pull the brake handle, it will move the piston in the cylinder, so that the piston closes the reservoir channel and the piston movement will press the brake fluid. In this position, the tube is filled with brake fluid, but the volume is small. While above the brake fluid, there is an empty space that is actually not empty, but filled with air. Well, this air is very potential to enter the hydraulic brake system. The motorbike is not always in a flat position when being driven, especially when turning. Sometimes tilted to the right, sometimes to the left. Well, when the position of the motorbike is tilted, the surface of the brake fluid shifts. If the position of the motorbike is tilted too sharply, plus the condition of the brake fluid is lacking, it will expose the reservoir channel to air. So when this channel is not submerged in brake fluid, that's where air can enter. Indeed, the air that enters is only in the form of small bubbles, but if this happens often enough, the bubbles become numerous and the effect is also felt. So what is the effect? As I said before, air is elastic, so if it is given pressure, its volume will shrink. It will not be able to be used to channel hydraulic pressure. Because in the air intake position, when the piston pushes the brake fluid, the push should be channeled to the caliper so that the piston in the caliper can push the brake pads. But because there are air bubbles, the pressure is actually used to make the air bubbles smaller so that there is no more pressure left to push the piston in the brake caliper. That's what happens when the brakes fail. Hopefully, it can increase our insight